Attento alle questioni sociali, ai temi ambientali e a cambiamenti del mondo contemporaneo. Il britannico Jonathan Coe è uno dei nomi più interessanti del panorama letterario internazionale. Personaggi e storie coinvolgenti, spesso accompagnati da un'accattivante dose di umorismo e satira sociale. Come nel suo ultimo libro, I terribili segreti di Maxwell Sim, di cui abbiamo parlato con lo scrittore in occasione del suo passaggio a Milano. Enjoy!
My most recent novel in English is called The Terrible Privacy of Maxwell Sim. In Italian it's called The Terrible Secrets of Maxwell Sim. This apparently is because there is no word in Italian for privacy, which is an interesting realization for me. And also, as it turns out, this word doesn't exist in most of the other European languages. So my book is having a different title depending on which country it's published in. It's the story of an ordinary man, a salesman in his late 40s, whose marriage has failed, whose relationship with his parents is not warm or close, and he accepts a job, a brief freelance sales assignment which will involve him driving from one end of the United Kingdom to another, from London up to the very north of Scotland. And in the course of this journey he learns things about himself and about his country which make him, for the first time really in his life, start to understand himself a little bit. When I begin writing a book, I don't normally think about how my readers are going to respond to it. What occurs to me is the shape of the narrative, the nature of the central character, these kind of things. I get excited or inspired by these ideas and I begin to write. I don't really think about how a reader will respond at that point. So I didn't think really about the ordinariness of Maxwell Sim, or how there was a danger that it might perhaps alienate or bore my readers. But in any case, to me, to be ordinary is not the same as to be boring. And although Maxwell is unexceptional in the sense that he hasn't, his life is not full of great achievements or anything like this, as the book unfolds, you realize and you see that he's a man of passion, a man who has had an eventful emotional life. Disappointments have occurred to him, joys have occurred to him, all the kind of things that would occur in the interior life of a more exceptional character. So, you know, the task I set myself really as a writer in this book was to uncover the rich emotional life of a very ordinary person. Part of the subject of the book is the relationship between human beings and technology, and specifically men and technology. In the second half of the book, Maxwell, all of whose relationships with other characters in the novel have failed up until that point, he begins a relationship with a piece of technology, with the voice on his GPS machine. And partly I did this as a kind of joke, because I'm always amused by the relationship men have with their technology, including myself, the way we tend to fall in love with our gadgets, with our iPads and our iPods and everything else. But also because the book also tries to ask questions about the new kinds of relationships that we form and are able to form now that we've undergone this technological revolution in the last few years. Relationships which are not necessarily with real people, but with virtual people, identities that have been created on the internet, for instance. And you know, I thought that Max's relationship with the voice on his GPS was a kind of analogy to this. That because his relationships with real people have failed, he takes refuge in a relationship with a piece of technology, which is not finally meant to be a commentary on men as a whole, but just on the particular kind of man that Maxwell is, which is someone who has always in his life had difficulty connecting with people. Writing for me is a solitary process, and a process during which I have to shut myself away from the world and find as much peace and isolation as possible. But when I'm between novels, and when I'm looking around for new ideas, then I try to lead a very public life and spend as much time in public places as possible, on buses, trains, in cafes and restaurants, that sort of thing. And there's always the chance that I will glimpse someone or overhear something that will inspire a narrative idea, and indeed this is how the terrible privacy of Maxwell Sim began. At the moment I have several ideas in my head for new novels. I don't know which one I'm going to write next. It won't necessarily be contemporary because although some of my novels are set in the present day, the one before this, for instance, The Rain Before It Falls, was set mainly in the 1950s, and I'm becoming as interested in writing about the past as I am in writing about the present, because I don't think you can understand one without the other. It doesn't seem to me generally that the best films are derived from books. Always whenever a book is successful and creates a kind of literary sensation, somebody buys the rights, somebody makes a film, and the film is often a disappointment because the two art forms, the two forms of storytelling, are actually quite different. But of course I'm also a fan of the cinema, and I'm interested in the problems of adapting books to the screen, and also interested in the ways in which occasionally it can be successful. So I'm always pleased when there's interest in turning one of my books into a film, and I'll be very pleased and rather surprised if any of them make it to the screen. If they do, I will try to enjoy them and try to judge them as a spectator, as something connected to but essentially quite separate from the novels on which they're based.